And welcome back, everybody, to the Podcaster Nation. That's right. This is the podcast. It's about podcasters, it's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. I said welcome back because I know you were just listening to our stuff and you came back because you wanted more. And you know what? We have a lot more for you. We've got an awesome story with this guy sitting across the table from me today. I cannot wait for you to hear it. Really, really cool. And I got a whole bunch of questions for him. So don't worry, I'm not going to let you down. We're going to get to the bottom of this and find out if this guy's crazy or what the story is, or what we're going to find out. Folks, this is the place where we all come together as podcasters and we help each other rise. This is the place where the rising tide truly raises all ships. Now, let's go ahead and get my guest on here today. Stunt performer, filmmaker, lifelong martial artist, head coach and owner of New York Combat Sambo, team coach of US World Sambo team and US Combat Wrestling World team several times, is what I'm told. And on top of all that, host of the podcast Film Fights with Friends. I checked him out on YouTube. It's a really cool show. You guys are going to love this. His co-host Paul Veracci could not be with us today, but we've got the guy. We've got the man, Stephen Koepfer. Stephen, how you doing today, brother?
Hey man, thank you for having me on. And yes, I am crazy.
Honestly, I was reading this back a third time going, how's he doing all this? This guy's got to be nuts. I
Yeah,
don't know where you want to start, but let's just do this. Hey, Stephen, welcome to the show.
thanks.
Tell
Thanks.
our
Yeah,
audience, who is Stephen Koepfer? What are you about? What brings you here today, brother?
sure, man. What brought me here today was the podcast, Film Fights with Friends, of course. But what got me to this place in my life, like a lot of us in the entertainment industry, my path has been all over the place, The one common denominator has been martial arts, my whole life. So that's sort of the bedrock. But I wanted to be in film since I was a little kid. Always wanted to be kind of behind the camera, not really performing so much. That kind of came later. But if you would ask my mom, she'd say I was a natural performer. I was the kid always like, putting on the Grease soundtrack and jumping up on the couch and doing "Go Grease
The
Lightning,"
Grease Lightning, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I was definitely the performer. But I really wanted to be the special effects guy, the behind the scenes guy. Like anybody my age, I'm sure we're give or take the same kind of bracket, raised on Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark and all that kind of stuff. It's like my library was full of all the behind the scenes, like how they did it stuff.
Yeah.
So when it came time to go to camp as a little kid, my friends went away to sleepaway camp. I went away to filmmaking camp. And just from a very early age started learning to tell stories visually. And then it's always been my thing, man. It's just like kind of creative approaches to stuff. And I think now as a someone in my 50s, if I look back, it was always really about telling telling, making something and telling somebody something, because whether I was in art school because I went to college for visual art, it was that, and or whether it was I was also a musician and played in bands for years. I played jazz and blues, piano, so whether it was that, so it was, but never about the performing. It was always about like what we were doing for people. Even when I
Sure.
was doing art, I wasn't. Um, I mean, what I do now is art, but when I was doing visual art, I was much more about the process of it and what it did for people than having a product to hang on the wall. You
Hmm.
know, so I've always been sort of a process guy, and that's just carried me through in all the different jobs that I've had. And I would say my first TV job, official TV job, was in 2007 on the old show on History Channel, The Human Weapon. And then it kind of got me started from there. And then I got, a little more work, a little more work. And, here I am today, now performing in front of the camera and still trying to make films and write screenplays and, have my fingers in a lot of pots. And
That
I still run
sounds,
the
yeah.
gym, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, now it's your gym.
Yeah, yeah, we've had it for 22 years. And it's sort of dovetailed into my film world too. So like it's now we rent it out for rehearsals and auditions and things like that. But it's sort of moved into that world too. It's like it's a nice way to keep my fingers in those pots even if I'm not actually working myself.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, for sure.
There's I'm hearing every word you're saying, but yeah, there's like
Yeah.
whenever you move your hands, I think it's blocking your mic or something. It
Oh,
only
okay.
happened
I'll
it
keep.
happened a few times, but it's like you're real clear, and then I think you and I both talk with our hands. So I don't know
Yeah,
how
I
you're
do.
going to get through
Yeah.
it.
I don't know. I'll keep my hands on the coffee. How about?
It might be that, I'm not sure. But something's like, cutting in and out, and even though I can hear you, it's like it changes from one mic to a different mic in my ears.
Interesting.
So yeah, I'm just like, okay.
How's it sounding right now? Okay.
It was until you said okay. So maybe it was when you moved forward. I'm not real sure. Where's your mic? Is it hooked to your shirt?
No,
Oh, it's in there.
it's in the Beats. Yeah, the Beats by Dre.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. All right. I mean, because I can hear you perfectly, and every word's
Okay.
coming out clear. It's not like you're cutting out. It's just that
Yeah.
it seems like it's switching back and forth between two mics.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. So I'm just letting you know that I wasn't real sure. It seemed to coincide with your hands until you put your hands down. I'm
Yeah.
like, all
I
right,
don't
well,
know.
yeah. So
If
just
it
stay right there and
becomes
don't
really
move.
bad, I will stay silent. I will stay still. I can do that. Yeah.
It'll be fine, man. We'll magic
Yeah.
master it a little bit afterwards and see what we can do. And this is why we
All
don't
right.
edit, because people need to know this
Yeah.
type of thing happens in a podcast. It's like, hey, you just move on. That's what we
Oh,
do.
tell me about it.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. So, is there a difference between being a traditional stuntman or stunt performer? I'm just curious.
Um, I think stuntman is sort of an iconic term, So like
Yeah.
when you join the union, you'll get when you join SAG-AFTRA, which takes a while to get in there. Like any union, you have to do a bunch of work before you can get in the union.
Hmm.
But your title is stunt performer, I kind of view the term stuntman with reverence. So for me, it's like there's a bucket list of things I'd like to do before I call myself that. But other people have said I'm there, like veteran guys say, because let's say I've been in the union for about 10 years. So, I've done a lot. So I don't know. Some people call me stuntman. I just say I'm a stunt performer. I look at the word stuntman as like the guys that have been in this for decades and decades and, you know,
Gotcha.
have been around. They've been around. They've earned that title.
More
But
encompassing, higher up designation type of thing that you guys in the
yeah,
business do. Okay, I got you, man. Very cool.
yeah. I mean, it's not like an official term, right? It's like just a name, but
Okay.
I don't choose to call myself that name yet, just yet.
Gotcha. Well, I will not refer to you that way out of respect for you. Okay, then. We all got to have things we're striving for, brother. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Very cool. Okay, so I mean, I'm not even really sure where to start here. Which came first, the martial artist and the combat stuff, or the stunt stuff and the film stuff? Like, give me some kind of a
Yeah.
timeline about like what led you to what through this whole
Well,
thing, if you can.
sure. Well, the martial arts definitely came first, and that was what opened the door for me. Like, so basically, it opened the stunt door for me.
Okay.
Um, so I was producing films before I got into stunts, you know, but it was a film it was a proof of concept that I produced and fight choreographed. A former student of mine who used to fight out of my gym was also a filmmaker, well, is a filmmaker, but at the time he was an aspiring filmmaker, and he had written a screenplay, a script for a television show, and he was going to pitch it. And so I had just produced a documentary that got on Hulu, and this was back in 20. Well, we did the film in 2011, and it got on Hulu in 2013. And it's a documentary about how mixed martial arts was still at that time illegal in New York. We were the last state to legalize it, right?
Okay.
So that was a documentary about that. And it was on Hulu for years. But anyway, I had produced that and got it distributed, which was very lucky. And so Sean Fitzgerald, my student who was working on this pitch for a TV show, said, "Hey, Steve, Mr. Big Producer, you want to do my proof of concept?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." So we raised $8,000, shot a 10-minute short. We got Al Iaquinta from the UFC to star in it. I've known him since he was like a teenager, and he was interested in dipping his toes into the acting world. And so we shot this short film, and because Al was in it, we got publicity. He was talking about it at UFC press conferences and things like that. Next thing you know, Fox Sports did a whole story on our attempt to get this TV show made, and we gave Fox exclusivity to play our short on their website. So they had it linked on their website. And
Nice.
um, because of that, um, Darren Aronofsky's people, for those who don't know, Darren Aronofsky is a director. He did Black Swan, Noah, The Wrestler. He's got the new movie coming out called Caught Stealing. It's coming out later this summer, which ironically, all these years later, I worked on. But full circle right there. But so he was considering doing a TV show back then. It was like the beginning of this golden age of TV, and they saw our proof of concept and said, "Hey, why don't you come in for a meeting?" A couple of meetings later, they never made a TV show. He still hasn't made a TV show. But I met the stunt coordinator that he works with, and the stunt coordinator was like, "Yo, you should think about stunts, man. You got the filmmaking thing, you got the martial arts thing. You put together a really good fight scene for this short film." And that was in 2014. And I was like, bing, light bulb went off. I'd never even thought of it. And then that became my passion. I was like, I need to do this. And then 2 years later, I got in the union, and the rest is history. Yeah,
Nice.
I mean, that's kind of how it happened. It was very much I mean, there's a lot of luck involved, but like with everything, even with podcasting, it's luck is only how prepared you are to take advantage of the moment that comes before you. And I
Exactly.
really believe that there are moments that come across our window every day, and either we notice them or we don't notice them. We step through the doorway, we don't step through the doorway. So my whole life has always just been like, screw that. I'm gonna give this a go, and just make it work.
Nice.
So
Very
yeah, so
nice.
that's what happened, man. That's the short story of how I transitioned. But it was all honestly martial arts, right? It was all really martial arts because I met the filmmaker because he was a martial arts student of mine, and then the person we got to star in it was a martial artist that I knew because I used to teach at his club in Long Island when he was younger, before he was the Ally Quinta that everybody knows now.
Hmm.
So it was really martial arts was the sinew that connected everything.
Nice. It's a great story. I mean, I don't think there's any young boy out there that doesn't, think about being in the movies, being in stunts, being
Yeah,
in
man.
fights, really cool stuff. We all grow up with that, but I mean, you're actually doing
Yeah.
it. So when you're doing the stand-in, the stunt performer part, you're having the fight with the guy. Is that primarily it, or are you crashing up cars and stuff like that too?
Well, so basically what happens, right? Anybody who gets into the stunt business, for me, it was fighting that sort of was my in.
Hmm.
And then for other people, it could be like, let's say they're a pro skateboarder or a race car driver or a skydiver, or they have some skill that they do better than most people. When people first ask me, how do I want to get into the business? I say, what can you do better than 98% of the population? Like what's one thing that you can do? And that usually is your in. Like, so for me, it was fighting. But how many fighting jobs do you get? Like, not that, it's like, so then you all of a sudden you have to start learning. Oh, I got to start learning driving. I got to start learning rigging. I got to start learning how to shoot and edit, which luckily, because of my interest in filmmaking, I already kind of had that skill too. But you have to start building yourself up to what they call a utility stunt person.
Mm. Okay.
So utility stunt person is a person they can hire and they could do lots of different jobs on different days. Maybe we need you to play safety on this day. Maybe we need you to drive a car on that day. Maybe we just need you to train an actor on this day. So you can get that's like kind of what you want to get hired as. Or if you're like what they call a 1X. So for those listening, we get a call sheet when you get a job, there's the call sheet. And then number one on the call sheet is the star. So let's say like Ray Donovan, right? Liev
Okay.
Schreiber is number one on on the call sheet. Then I doubled Eddie Marson on Ray Donovan, right? So he's number three on the call sheet.
Oh,
So the
wow.
stunt double is 3x. My friend Rick Buckman, who was Liev Schreiber's stunt double, is 1x. So wherever they are on the call sheet, the actor, the stunt person gets an X, and then you're that number. So I was like a 3x on that show. So that was a good one because I got to work for most of like a whole season, like as opposed to being a day player, you just come in, do a fight or do a stunt or do a stair fall or then go home, you know. So
Yeah.
it's cool. But to your original question about what you do, it's like you could just be the stunt double or you could be a utility person, you know. But it's usually I got in 2016. I wasn't really involved in any major fight scenes for a couple of years. You have to just prove that you're um capable and that they can trust you. We don't have agents and managers like actors do. It's all word of mouth. So they have to, and we're doing things that can actually hurt people.
Yeah.
There's injuries and safety issues. So stunt coordinators really are picky and choosy about who they bring in. They're looking at skill level, they're looking at safety, dependability. And the most practical thing is, can I sit on set with you for 15 hours and you won't drive me crazy? You know what I mean? Sometimes that's more important than your skill.
Sure. I can see that in a lot of jobs. So I understand. And
Yeah.
I mean, man, Ray Donovan, that's a great show.
Oh, it
That
was
was a
fun.
great show. I mean, so that was I mean,
But yeah, so to your
wow.
original question though, like about do I do all the fights or not? Like
Yeah.
usually if you get hired as a stunt double, like on season six, right? This was season six. And for those listening, the storyline was where Terry Donovan, the boxer brother, had gotten the chip implant for his Parkinson's disease. So
Yeah.
he stopped, he didn't have all the tremors and stuff, and he went into this underground fight club thing, right? So there were lots of fights to do. I mean, the show has lots of fights in it anyway. It's Ray Donovan, but
Right.
this one had extra amount of fights because you had Terry, who normally in the show was not doing much of that stuff because he had the Parkinson's.
Yeah.
And this season he was actively fighting. So we really got to see the boxer that Terry was. And so we didn't know, like, so you can actually go back to one of our old episodes on our show. We talk about this, but episode 5 with Doc Duhame was the stunt coordinator of Ray Donovan. And so when he'll come in with go through the script, look at how the fight was described. Sometimes scripts will just say fight happens here, and that's it. Some writers really describe it very detailed, like what they want to see.
Hmm.
So we have to work with what we're given. Doc will come in with an idea of how the fight wants it to look, right? Then myself and the antagonist fighter will work on the choreography with Doc. We'll shoot what's called a previs, which is basically short for pre-visualization. So we shoot the fight, rudimentary version, maybe with some sound effects or special effects, but not much. It's really just to show the producers and the director, this is what we've got. Then you'll get notes back like, hey, maybe a little bit of this or change a little bit of that or like whatever. Like that's too violent for the show or that's not violent enough. They'll give you some kind of notes. And then once we nail it down, then we teach Eddie Marson the fight. He'll come in and we teach him the fight. So at this point, Eddie Marson typically doesn't do a lot of action movies. So we didn't know how much of the fight I would do, how much of the fight he would do. So he was amazing. So out of the 4 fights that I doubled him, only 3 of them I had to be on camera, you know? So
Wow.
my job was really to teach him to work with the stunt coordinator, teach him the choreography, make sure he knows it. So like I have to know both parts of
Right.
the fight. And then of course I'm still on set in case he gets injured or whatever, and I have to finish the fight, or there's maybe one part of the fight that is more too complicated for him or something like that. So the one fight that I was with him was a big bar fight, like a big 4-on-3 bar fight where we were breaking tables and all that kind of stuff. So that was me, you know what I mean? But for the underground fights, it was like 98% him.
No kidding.
But in between takes,
Man.
he'd come over to me and say, "How does that look? Was I, Did my punches sell? This, that. Like you become kind of like their partner. Lost my earbud. You become their coach, in a
Hmm.
sense, you know.
Yeah, that's
And
fascinating. That really is.
yeah, but you might get an actor that can't do anything, and then you do everything for them.
Yeah.
But I personally, as a filmmaker, I always think it's better if the actor can do it themselves. It always looks better.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, I could talk to you about this stunt stuff all day just because it's like bringing out the little kid in me. I'm just sitting here with a
Yeah,
big
yeah.
grin on my face going, man, this is cool.
It's fun. It's fun
So,
stuff. Yeah.
um,
But that's, that can I drop curses in here or no?
oh, yeah.
Uh yeah, I was gonna say that shit-eating grin on your face right now is like that's what we want people to feel like on our with our podcast. You know what I mean? Because
Hmm.
there's so many people out there who just love this stuff.
Yeah.
So we just want to share these kinds of stories, you know?
That's awesome. I want to talk about the podcast, of course. I do want to clarify something just because I had to look it up. For those people who are listening who don't know what, combat sambo is, can you
Oh,
just give
right,
them an
right.
idea of what sambo is as a concept?
Sure. So Sambo is a Soviet, well, it's a martial art that was created in the Soviet Union, sort of a derivative of judo and wrestling and some other styles. Is from the early 20th century, and like a lot of martial arts, it was created strictly as like a hand-to-hand combat system for police and soldiers and stuff like that. So if you look at like the history of most martial arts, it starts off that way. Like it's just about real fighting. And then they realize, well, if we actually do this all the time, we're going to hurt each other, and then we have nobody to train with. So then they kind of come up with a sporty version where they don't really hurt each other so much, right?
Okay.
So there's the original Combat Sambo version of Sambo that was just a hand-to-hand system, and that was developed in the late 20s. And one of the founders, very heavy judo influence because one of the founders, his name is Oshchepkov, Vasily Oshchepkov. He was actually an orphan. Uh, well, he had his mom. His mom was alive, but his father was killed, and he was an orphan, and he lived on Sakhalin Island, which was sort of stuck in the middle of the Russo-Japanese War, right? So it was under Japanese occupation at the time, and they had a little judo club there, and he showed promise, and they brought him back to Japan, and he was the fourth non-Japanese to ever get a shodan, a black belt in judo, and he went up to second degree black belt, and then he came back to Russia and started developing a sort of a derivative system based on judo. And then, of course, there was another guy that already had a system that was in place, a little older than him. His name was Spiridonov. And so they were actually competitors. They were the two founders of the style, but they were competitors. And Oshchepkov ended up getting fingered as a spy for Japan. And in the purges of 1937, he was killed in the Soviet Union. And then so one of his students continued to develop it. And in 1938, it actually became an official sport in the Soviet Union. 1938 is sort of the birth year. Uh, so that's the short version of it. But if you were of the history, but if you were to watch it, it very much looks like judo or jujitsu. It's a wrestling style. We wear a jacket like a gi or a kimono. It's just called a kurtka, which basically means jacket in Russian.
Okay.
But you'll wear a jacket, and we wear shorts, much more like a wrestling singlet than not gi pants. But if you were to watch technically what they're doing the same kinds of throws and submission holds and things like in judo and jiu-jitsu. Then you have combat sambo, the sport version that essentially looks like mixed martial arts. I mean, the scoring system and things are different, but technically what you can do to each other, it looks like mixed martial arts. It's punching, kicking, throwing, wrestling, submissions.
Cool.
And so my coach was a Russian expat living in the United States. And then I started training with him. And then I actually started my club, which is really just his club, continued because in 2003 he went back home to Russia, and I
Oh,
just
okay.
kept the club going. So that's how, he was like, "Hey Steve, I'm going back to Russia one day. You'll take over, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, whatever." His name is Alex. Like, "Yeah, Alex, I'll do it." Yeah, sure. I wasn't really thinking about it. I was on a different career path or whatever. Like for me, like owning a martial arts school was kind of like a retirement plan. And so one day he's like, "Okay, I bought my plane ticket." I was like, "What?" And that's it. I got to school, and that was in 2003. So I've been running it ever since.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know, right place, right time, right friends, I guess.
there you go, man. But I owe everything to him because it's because of Sambo, really, that got me into the film business,
Yeah.
the fighting side of things. That's what got me into working on the John Wick movies because Wick is supposed to be a Sambo guy, the character.
Hmm.
So,
I didn't realize
you know,
that either. Okay. I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah. If you in John Wick 3, I mean, they knew he was supposed to be a Sambo guy from the very beginning. In fact, on John Wick 1, which at the time nobody knew it was one, it was just this indie film called John Wick,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Um, the guys from 8711, who was the stunt team that was making the movie, came to my gym in New York. I didn't know who they were. They were like, "Hey, we're looking for Russian bad guys," and I pointed some people in their direction for auditions. One of my friends got cast, Vlad Kulikov. He's the dude in the first movie that puts the bag over Wick's head and tries to choke him and then gets sniped by Willem Dafoe. Like he's a Sambo champion in real life, that guy,
Wow.
right?
All right.
So then they brought me back in on Wick 2 to show them. I mean, they're all extremely good martial artists already. Like, it's not like I need to teach them anything,
Hmm.
but the kinds of things that they were looking at is, all right, so how would this be done in Sambo? Like, here's the throw we want. How would a Russian guy do this? How would a Sambo stylist do this? So I was giving them sort of like the spicy ingredients that might make it a little more Sambo-ish, instead of looking like judo or something.
Okay.
So basically put me in front of a camera and just spitballing things with me and just filming me doing stuff. Like, okay, you got a gun in your right hand. How would you do this throw if you can't use that hand? Or if somebody's grabbing you here, how would you do this? How would you do that? Just for like a couple of hours, just filming me. And then they invited me to stick around and just watch the rehearsals. And, it was really cool. Then in Wick 3, by the time Wick 3 came along, I was now fully in the union. So they were like, hey, do you want to come back and work on Wick 3? And that's the scene that where Wick goes back to where he was trained with Angelica Houston. And if you watch, they're all the young kids fighting, they're all doing Sambo. They got the red and the blue jackets and they're all
Oh,
training
wow.
Sambo.
Okay.
And I was the coordinator for all that stuff. So we did all the auditions for that scene at my gym. We auditioned all the kids at my gym. And then on the day, I was the one telling them what to do, choreographing the moves that they were doing and stuff like that. So yeah, totally. And
Neat.
ironically enough, the movie Ballerina is coming out in a couple weeks, and that is sort of a spin-off from that point in the timeline, from that John Wick 3 point in the timeline. So you'll see more Sambo in there too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm going to watch the movie a whole different way. I mean, I've seen them all, because
Oh
who
yeah, yeah.
doesn't like John Wick, man? Come on.
It's
So,
actually
yeah. No, that's awesome. But I'm going to watch them all a lot differently now.
cool.
So, I did not make that connection at all when I was looking this up, but very cool, man. So somehow you take all of this knowledge, all of
Hmm.
this fortuitous stuff that you've been through. Um, I mean, any one of these would be a dream life for a lot of guys. And you take
Yeah.
all this and you put it into a successful podcast. So tell everybody
Yep.
what made you want to do the podcast, what it's about, what they can expect when they tune in. Go for it.
So yeah, it's so funny. I didn't have the idea like let's do a podcast. I want to do a podcast. It's my longtime collaborator and editor that I've worked with for almost 15 years, Matthew Kaplowitz. He's one of the producers of our podcast. He and another colleague of his, a sound engineer, longtime podcaster. And by the way, Matthew is also a podcaster. He's got a very popular Star Trek podcast and stuff like that. But they started their own studio and they each were working with people independently, helping them produce podcasts, but they started the studio. And Matt called me up and he's like, Steve, you've been on like 50 podcasts. You need to have your own podcast. You know what I mean? And I was like, okay. So then I was like, hey, Paul, I got to the gym. Hey, Paul, you want to do a podcast? All right, let's do it. And then it came time to think of what really could we offer that's different, And I get really bored with podcasts that kind of start and end. There's this cookie cutter formula, especially for interview podcasts, and there have been a lot of sort of stunt podcasts that crashed and burned, like a lot of podcasts, like 8 or 9 episodes in, and they're done, or
Sure. Yeah.
their consistency is terrible, and you just stop subscribing because it's like you don't know when the next one's coming out or anything like that. So we looked at what we didn't like about all the other podcasts. And like, it's always like, okay, let's start at the beginning. How'd you get into this business? Ugh, it's like fucking boring, man. It's like every podcast sound the same. So we wanted to start in the middle. And so we're like, let's just do a podcast about what we love, which is fight scenes and filmmaking, you know? And let's not keep to just stunts. Let's bring in all different people from productions, writers, directors, special effects people, like everybody. We didn't want it to be a stunt podcast. We wanted it to be a filmmaking podcast, but specifically about action filmmaking. And the formula is, we're only about 34 episodes in, but it's like we're kind of finding our groove. And you know, starting in the middle of somebody's career is really great. Like starting with the fight scene. Like we try to start with how the scene was written in the script, how they prepped for it, how they shot it, how it came out in the final cut, and what they did like, what they didn't like. And that usually organically leads into some really amazing conversations, which sometimes gets back to how they got in the business and sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
Like that's not really what we're interested in. So that's kind of how it started. And then I had actually tried podcasting way back in 2006, 2007. I had an old podcast called Sambo Cast Radio. Back then, everything was ended with radio. Something something radio, something something radio.
Yeah, I remember that
So
stuff.
yeah. And I did about like most people who quit. I did 10 episodes. And I was trying to do it myself and I quit. I was like, this is too much. Like with all my other life responsibilities and
Sure.
kind of trying to balance the work life. And then, I couldn't keep it going. And then I just quit. Um, so with this podcast, we approached it more like we're showrunners, like for TV.
Yeah.
Because that's what we know, So we have a team. It's not just us trying to do it. We have myself, Paul, Matt, our video editor, and Rich, our sound engineer and editor. And we do it as a team. We share the responsibility, and it's just so much easier, so much smoother, so much more professional, I mean, it's still a lot of work, but it's way less work than if it was just me or just Paul.
Right.
And we're loving it. And we're just loving it. It's like we feel spoiled. It's like we created our own film school, you know? And so we're learning just as much as hopefully the people watching and listening are learning. But that's kind of how we came up to it. So I have to thank Matt because he's the one that was like, dude, you need a podcast.
Everybody's got an origin story, man. That's really cool.
That's it. Yeah, yeah.
And so, I mean, Paul's like a chef.
He was a professional chef. Yeah,
Yeah. So
he it's like Under Siege. He's like the chef that kicks ass.
that's right. That's right. He
You
was a
know?
cook on the boat. That's right. So
Yeah. No, but Paul was a chef for many years. He worked at the Spotted Pig here in New York City under for Mario Batali, and he was Jimmy Buffett's private chef. He's an amazing
wow.
chef. But now he doesn't work in that industry anymore. Like I think he like a lot of people that come from different areas. Like he's like, I don't like the restaurant business. I'm out of there. But like me, he's also a, a not lifelong, but very long time martial artist. And we started the stunt journey together, you know.
Very
And
cool.
we're like, you want to do this? Yeah, let's try this. And now we're doing the same with the podcast. You want to do this? Oh yeah, let's do this. You know?
I mean, it does make one wonder. You know, you have all these other things that you're doing. You're in films. You're coaching. US World teams. You're running
Right.
your own business, training guys on combat sambo to start with, and
Right.
then you're going to fit in a podcast somehow. I mean, I talk to people who are like, I don't have time for my podcast because I work 9 to 5. How are you doing all of that, brother, and still getting a
Listen, man,
podcast done?
it's 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 easy to joke and say, oh, they say you want something done, give it to the busiest person, but it's like it's just commitment. You have to really want it. You just have to really want it, and you have to enjoy it. Like you can't be, oh God, I gotta like right now I have two episodes of our show that I have to review. Like so we'll record the episode, right? And then like we'll do the research, Paul and I will collect assets, blah blah blah, B-roll, everything for our editor, for Matt, our editor. So then he sends us the first cut of the show. We review it. We'll be like, oh, maybe move this cut here. Maybe, we do the whole editing process back and forth.
Right.
And that all takes time, dude. All the research, the getting of the assets, the booking of the stuff, it all takes time. But if you're sitting home and we have to do the same with the listen to the audio version, it's not the same as the video version, right? So um you can't look at it like it's a burden. Like you have to be all in on it and enjoy the process of it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like what I was saying about making visual art. It's the process of it that's great. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily the painting that ends up on the wall, which is great. It's the whole experience of making the painting is great. And you have to feel that way about making a podcast or a video program or whatever you want to call the video. Like there's all the debates on like, is video a podcast? Like, I don't really
Right.
care, but
Yeah.
it's when you're making something, you have to enjoy the process of making it. And if, you know, that almost has to be more important to you, or maybe it should be more important to you than how many downloads I got, how many views I got, how many subscribers I have, like all that stuff. Like
Okay.
you just have to be in it because it's enjoyable and fun and educational for you. And hopefully, if people watching your show get that idea that you guys really dig it, then they'll really dig it,
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Since we're talking about the process and the experience, I'm going to slide in my corny question that I ask everybody.
Oh, do it.
It's
Yeah,
kind of my Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'll be back moment. Just got to make sure I get it in every episode.
yeah. Okay.
But and I always use that, but it actually has more meaning talking to you right now because
Cool. Oh yeah,
talking to a film
Schwarzenegger, man.
guy.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but anyway, it's real simple. In terms of doing the podcasting portion of everything else that you
Hmm.
do, we're talking about the podcasting thing, and you just
Sure.
talked about how you have to like it. So, what is the part about doing the podcast that you love the most? And what is the part about doing the podcast that, man, you just do not like at all?
Hmm. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I love the interviews. Generally, I love the interviews the most. I love getting to meet and talk with these people,
I like how you
you know?
slipped in generally right there.
No, because listen, anybody, and you know this, I'm sure, there are interviews that just like 15 minutes in, you're like, oh my God, I got another 45 minutes of this. What am I going to do?
Sure.
And that's where you develop your interview skills, but they're not always fun. But we've been lucky. We've had one or two that were a little bit of like we had to pull teeth, but generally they're so much fun. And I mean, come on. It's like I'm getting to talk to all these people that I probably never would have talked to
Yeah.
for an hour or an hour and a half, like directors of movies and all this stuff, like people I never met. The network is growing and it's just so enjoyable. So I'd say the actual doing of the interview is the most fun. The least fun, I would just say, is the stress of booking. Like right now, at least at this point in my like, so we did season one, we had 26 episodes, and it was kind of easy in the sense that Paul and I are in the business. It wasn't really hard to find guests. We had a lot of people who were supporting us, in our efforts. But now we're in season two. We've kind of run through the people that were willing to just jump on the show.
Yeah.
So now it's real work. Now it's like, okay, we need to get guests, you know. And then when we don't get guests, if we do like we'll do the occasional Paul and Steve only episode, we'll pick a topic. But even that is work, like to come up with something unique that's not boring, you know. But I would say the hardest part right now is booking guests, you
Hmm.
know.
Okay.
But I would say if at least in our case, because we try to batch them, and like right now we just dropped episode 2 of season 2 today, but we have 1 through 7. We had 1 through 7 in the can before we even launched episode 1 of season 2.
Sure.
And so that gives us time, right? So that we don't, what it's difficult, it's a challenge to get guests, but the way we're producing the show is making sure that we don't put added pressure on ourselves. Like, oh my God, we got a show next week and we don't even have a guest yet, or like anything like that. So we try to get a lot in the can. And since we're bi-weekly, you know, 6 episodes is 3 months, so it's
Yeah.
like we have we give ourselves the cushion to to handle the stress. It's like, who are we gonna get on the show now? What strings
No,
can we pull? Like that kind of stuff.
that's awesome. All
Yeah.
right. Great answer. I appreciate it very much.
Cool. Yeah.
So, I mean, you guys have a lot of professional, sounds like knowledge, going into this in terms of media and, movies and the whole nine yards. What do you guys do yourselves to promote the show?
Um, it's a good question. Promoting the show is well, let's start by saying I had a pretty big um internet footprint before we started the show. So we weren't entirely starting from scratch,
Okay.
like we weren't just coming out of nowhere. Like I had, my Sambo Steve YouTube channel has millions and millions of views, and like I have like 7,000 subscribers, and like we've been around forever. And same with, you know, my other social media out, Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff. Like I'm sort of a known person.
Hmm.
Paul less so, but we had that community to tap into already and be like, hey, we're going to be launching this new podcast. I will say that one of the frustrating things is that very much doesn't translate to a lot of people paying attention to your show. So like you're like, I've got 7,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel, so now I'm gonna start this YouTube channel. And no, you're
Right.
not, like we're about to hit 200, subscribers. So it's not easy to people don't make the leap. The same thing with social media. Like we promote on social media.
Mhm.
Like we have some Instagram stories that are like have over 20,000 views, right? Instagram videos. That does not really translate to subscribers and listeners. So what I feel just in my sort of limited, a little over a year experience of doing this is is that this social media stuff like TikTok and Instagram is really a reminder to the people who subscribe to you already that you got a new one coming. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
kind of the engagement. So I think for myself, I look at the building of the community as a marathon, not a sprint. And, I don't get caught in the weeds of looking at the analytics like every day and all that. I look at them every couple months, honestly, and just look for trends. You could follow them every day, every week, and be like, oh my God, the numbers went up, the numbers went down. Like I think you need to focus on putting out a good product. Let the audience grow, let the community grow. I mean, we have a mailing list, we're on all the social medias, we're on Substack, we're on YouTube, obviously, we're on iHeartRadio. We syndicate everywhere. You know what I mean? Let me just hang that phone up. So yeah, we syndicate everywhere. And so I think like promoting yourself is partly patience, partly just making sure that you're out there in the universe and engaging the people that do engage you. You know, if they engage you, engage them back. Like when people comment on our YouTube, we shout them out on the show and we read their comments. When people give us reviews on Apple or whatever, we shout them out on the show. We read their reviews. And then when we post that when that episode airs, we tag them. Hey, we just shouted you out on this show, bro. And so they'll tune into the show. You
Yeah,
know, everybody likes to have their name shouted out.
absolutely.
But but I think the key is just be genuine and be patient and make sure that you're consistently putting stuff out for people and engaging them, you know. But if you're in it to grow really fast, it's just not going to happen. You're going to be disappointed, you
Sure.
know, especially if you're not like some celebrity or something like that.
I like that you pointed that out though, because that is a huge, miscommunication for folks where they really believe that whatever they have for followers or viewers or anything else is just instantly going
Hmm.
to become listeners, to
Yeah,
whatever they do. And it's like, it just does not translate at all. It's a totally separate audience.
yeah. I mean,
So,
there are certainly like a small percentage that do make that jump, but it's not like, you know, it's not a one-to-one ratio. It's
right.
like definitely not, you know. So it's like probably like 1% of those people that follow you on Instagram will go subscribe to you, you know.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And the other thing I would just say to new podcasters, and this is just a general thing I have, like I know like back in the day when podcasting was starting, right, it was really about the downloads because it was all on an iPod and you downloaded the episode and all this kind of stuff. And people are still so married to this download number. And I'm like, so many people don't download it anymore. They just stream it. You know, like so if you go to like the analytics specifically on like Apple or Spotify and you'll see a way higher number of listeners than downloads. You know, listens as opposed or plays according to than downloads.
Yeah.
Like if you just focus on the downloads, you might also be extra disappointed. You know what I mean? Just remember that. I mean, I don't download a lot of episodes, you know what I mean, of podcasts I listen to. You know, it's just I just stream it.
Right.
So just stream it
Me
on
too.
YouTube Music or whatever. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
me
So
too. 100%. I mean, at this point, you don't want to be downloading stuff and clogging up your devices because everything's held somewhere else anyway. So
exactly.
yeah, no, I totally get that. That's good advice to everybody. And that was kind of how I was going to round this out too. I was asking you
Cool.
for some advice. I'm coming back to you though for another piece of advice because I know you got more than that. You've been doing way too much here. So,
Okay.
but if people want to contact you, you got website, social media, what's the best way for them to reach out to you for whatever reason?
Um, Sambo Steve personally is basically everywhere. SAMBO Steve. That's everywhere on Instagram, on Reddit, on like just search for Sambo Steve and you'll find me. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
then yeah. And if you find me, you'll find the podcast. But
Perfect.
Film Fights Friends Pod. Like at Film Fights Friends Pod is our Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, you know.
Okay. At films, like with an S,
Uh no, no, singular. Film Fights
film
Friends. Yeah,
fights with an
friends.
S, friends with
Yeah,
an S.
pod.
Pod.
Here's another lesson that
Awesome.
for the new podcasters out there. We originally started our show as fights with friends, just fights with friends, right? And um, we were about halfway through season, and we did all our due diligence. We searched, we found no other podcast with that name. We're like, all right, it's ours. We didn't trademark it or anything, although now we are. Like Film Fights with Friends is a registered trademark. We have an LLC. Like I suggest everybody do that if you want to be serious and to protect your IP. Um, it's definitely worth doing. So about halfway through season one, we got contacted. There's another YouTube channel called Fights with Friends. and they have nothing to do. It's totally different genre. They break down like MMA fights, and they do like live breakdowns of fight shows and stuff. But they reached out to us and were like, "Hey, man, um, some of our viewers have got confused because they searched for us and they found you, and blah, would you mind changing the name?" And at that point, we could have been like, "No," or "Yes," which red pill, blue pill. But we wanted to be the good neighbors. And so we were like, yeah, yeah, we'll change it. But we changed it, but then we protected it. And so it was a kind of a hassle to go back and change everything,
Yeah.
like 12 or 13 episodes in, but better to do it then and protect it. So I would say serious advice. If you want to make this, like, if you want to be a professional, even if you're just an indie podcaster or whatever, treat it like it's a job, treat it professionally, protect your intellectual property, and get yourself a company, so just register an LLC and protect yourself. Super smart. I mean, luckily, like we had a good experience with the guy. He turned out to be a judo guy from Seattle. And then we had mutual friends, and it all worked out okay. But it doesn't always work out okay.
Right.
And
Yeah.
people can really come after you and then you could lose your content, they claims against you and all this kind of stuff. So protect your stuff for sure.
For sure. Great advice again, man. I love that. Since you gave me some advice without me asking for it, I'm going to change my
Oh,
final question to you here, which is beautiful.
shoot. Yeah.
No, not at all. I mean, I know everybody out there is just nodding their head right now, going, "Yeah, I really ought to do that." So they need to hear it.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
It's great. All right. As we wrap things up, Steve, thanks for bringing all this in here, man. This has been just awesome to hear about this stuff. And yeah, I just kind of feel
Dude,
like a
it's
kid in a
great.
candy store, listening to this stuff. But let me put it to you this way, sort of to wrap things up. I'm going to give you the floor for a moment or two here. And is there anything I didn't ask you about that you wanted to make sure got brought up today? Is there something that we talked about, and maybe you want to drive home a little bit more, or is there maybe just to leave behind one more good nugget for everybody that you feel like you want to leave as a parting shot? Okay, last minute or two is yours, brother.
Oh, cool. This will be my parting shot. Is guaranteed there are people watching this or listening to this that are thinking about doing a podcast and probably have been having some negative thoughts like I'll never get it done, or I'll like whatever, or they just keep kicking the can down the road and they'll probably never do it, or they might not ever do it, or whatever. But my suggestion is, if you want to do a podcast or anything else for that matter, if there's something if that thought keeps popping in your head, like, man, I really want to do this, then do it. There's nothing wrong with doing it and it not working out, but do it, try it. There's tons of resources out there like this show, like other podcast communities, that will help you. You know what I mean? And lots of good advice out there. I would say don't be the person that 10 years from now is going to be like, I really should have done XYZ or whatever. You have to just do it. Like commit to it and do it. Don't cheat yourself, you know? Too many people
Nice.
sitting around wanting to do stuff in life that they never do. Like the door opens to you, or if it doesn't open to you, you open it. You know what I mean? Go through it. Kick the door down, man. Or in my case, like get thrown through the door.
That's
Whatever.
right.
But go through the door, you know?
Absolutely perfect. I love that, man. Thank you. That was perfect. Perfect way to end this all up and wrap it up for everybody. Stephen Koepfer, stunt performer, filmmaker, martial artist, New York Combat Sambo coach and owner and podcast host of Film Fights with Friends. Folks, go check it out. Stephen, thanks so much for coming on today, man. I really appreciate it. It's been great getting to know you, man.
No, likewise. I'm glad I answered your post. This is a perfect example of walking through a door. You put up a post, said, "Hey, I'd love to interview podcasters," and I wrote to you. Next thing you know, here we are. We had this great conversation. Right?
Wonderful. Thank you, man.
Cool, man.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Folks, this has been another awesome episode of the Podcaster Nation. This is the podcast. It's about podcasters, it's for podcasters, it's done by podcasters. Folks, this really is the place where the rising tide raises all ships. So keep sailing.